Hello and welcome to a special edition of Tiffin Talks. We have Anand Neelakantan with a new book, Valmiki's Women, Five Tales from the Ramayana. And it's so amazing, Anand. First of all, welcome. I don't need to
Thank you.
really introduce you, but you've written, I think, some remarkable retellings of epics, looking at them from points of view that we didn't even imagine. Asura from Ravan's point of view, for instance. What a powerful retelling it was. I want to focus today on your new book from Westland, as I said. A remarkable book. I didn't even know some of these characters existed. When you talk about Shanta, for instance, was such an amazing, strong, powerful woman. The way you retell Manthara's story, she's always portrayed as this evil crone, the source of all the troubles that were visited upon Ram. But you see her with so much sympathy and you see her with so much empathy. So, first of all, congratulations. It's a wonderful book. Second, what sort of prompted this?
Thank you, Kaveri. And first of all, congratulations to your wonderful book, Three Khans. It's so amazing for bringing out the Bollywood story. Thank you very much. Congratulations for that. Now, regarding the, thank you so much. I thought you will mention that also. It is my, because when I got the chance, I mentioned it's an amazing book.
Thank you.
This one, I have been exploring Ramayana from various angles.
Yeah.
So many of the characters have not been given justice as much as Valmiki had given. In the later day retelling, what happened is it became very focused on Ram. Whereas Ramayana is equally like Mahabharata, where each character is important. Mahabharata, nobody will say that it became totally focused on Pandavas, even though it also became like that because of the influence of Bhagavatam. Ramayana always became, especially since the TV came, after the Ramayana Saga's Ramayana, it became totally focused on Ram and the later day political movement, everything like that. So regarding Shanta, character like Shanta, actually she doesn't appear in Valmiki's Ramayana. She appears in Vyasa Mahabharata, Ramopakhyana Parva, in the Vanaparva. Ramopakhyana is there, where Yudhishthira is told the entire story of Ramayana. So that is Vyasa's Ramayana actually, in which Shanta comes.
Right.
Then various other retellings of Ramayana also have. Shanta finds only a mention in Valmiki Ramayana, single line mention, as the wife of Rishyasringa. So it is an amazing story. I thought it should be, it's very relevant also. So my aim is always to pick up relevant stories which are relevant to the present day world.
Right.
When I talk about Shanta, it's about how girl childs are treated at home even now. Where is the root? Why, yeah, despite having many scriptures celebrating female as divinity, we perhaps might be only one of the few existing religions which have which conceive divine as feminine, as Shakti and all. All other religions that has lost as a concept of paganism or whatever it is. India is the only, Indian religions are the only ones which celebrate that. Despite that, over the years, what do you call, there has been a big partiality towards boys at many homes. Our male to female ratio, except perhaps in one or two states, is evidence for that. So Shanta's tale had to be told because without Shanta, there is no Ram. There is no Ramayana.
Exactly.
It is her sacrifice and how she, despite being the firstborn, becomes what do you call, almost discarded by her parents and the Ayodhya. So the Maryada of Ayodhya is only for the male child and not for the female. Ayodhya was never fair to any females, whether it is Kaikeyi or Manthara or Shanta or later Sita, or even before that. It has been like that. So these tales, which is actually a contrast to the neighboring kingdom of Mithila, where all the girls are women. That's why Sita's tale become important. All the what do you call? All the children are girls, and Janaga doesn't conduct any putra kameshti. There is no putri kameshti. There is only putra kameshti
Right.
yagya. It's only for begetting a son
Right.
that they do that. Whereas Janaga doesn't do that, and Janaga is considered as the wisest of all kings in
Right.
not just in Ramayana but the entire Puranic world. There were many Janagas, but the particular Janaga during who is Sita's adopted father is considered as the wisest of all men.
Right.
And he doesn't choose to have a boy child. Why? So these are the tales I thought I should explore. Then from a very matrilineal system which Asuras followed, how it changed, how Shurpanaga became a discard with Ravana's coming. Because if you see, the Ravana's clan is the only Brahminical clan. And you find that Shurpanaga gets discarded and it goes from Indrajit. Whereas if you go to Tataka, she's like a matriarch. Everyone calls her the mother.
Right.
So all these unknown stories, it was fun to go there. I had already explored some feminine aspects in my book Vanara, where it starts as a story of Bali and Sugriva and ends up as a story of Tara, who is considered as one of the Panchakanyas or Panchasatis and one of the greatest woman characters in the entire Purana. So I am exploring contemporary world, the problems that the present day India and the society poses through the lens of our age-old tales. Perhaps all the roots lie there.
Absolutely. And when I read about Manthara, the way you've written her, and when you say such powerful things like to the rich, all poor look alike, all poor look ugly. These are things that really are so brutal, but they're still so true.
Manthara is our household maid.
Exactly. And we saw how they were treated so badly during the first wave of the pandemic. It just occurred to me, this is the way it's always been, unfortunately.
This is the basic one certain things in Manthara's story. She wants to ask Ram questions, but Ram is not evil or per se. He's very kind and compassionate in this story also.
Yeah.
Yet even his compassion, even Sita's compassion doesn't reach Manthara.
It's
She
just
is waiting
money.
in the jail.
Yeah, it's just money. It's just gold coins. What will she do with gold coins?
But that is how the rulers do. No, they dole out things.
Exactly.
They think they are not. See, it's easy to tackle. It is easy to tackle evil. It is easy to tackle people who are really bad, because you know that a murderer when you see it, a bad person when you see it, a rapist when you know he's a rapist. The problem is people with good intention but who are not connected. That is what happens. So those are the kind of people it's very difficult to deal with. Many of our mates or other people, especially in our society, it is not that any of us, the so-called privileged class, is cruel per se. Many of us do things thinking that we are helping them out. Our world is so away from the reality, we don't even see the kind of humiliation perhaps we are giving. I keep asking my friends also, even at my home, perhaps I don't want to be a hypocrite. How many times in India, our maids sit along with us in our dining table, and eat.
Right.
I've seen apartments advertising with separate entrance for maid. You say that it is not even casteist, it is more classist. Because many times we don't know what is the caste of the maid, especially in the urban class. I'm not talking about the rural India. So you are living in Mumbai or Delhi or Calcutta or Chennai, you may not even know what is the caste. But by class wise, they have a separate plate in many homes from which they will eat the food. Sometimes they sit on the floor or maybe at the edge of the sofa in some more so-called open-minded homes. In the lift when they come, immediately you recognize by their dress. People
Right.
stand at 2 feet or 1 feet away without even knowing.
Yeah.
That is Manthara for.
Yeah.
None of these people are evil per se. None
Right.
of us in this middle class or upper middle class or the rich class, they mean nothing. They may be the people who give a few gold coins during or rupees during Diwali,
Right.
or sponsor the education of the kid's child. They are do-gooders. They are not even evil.
Mm.
But when you see we read the book like Catherine Socket Help, or the one or the film The Help, which had come
Right.
in 1960s, in the racism in America, the book deals with a very pertinent question of separate toilets for the black,
Blacks. Yes.
and that is the theme of the book. In
Right.
India, can we write a book like that? Separate toilet is a norm. We
Yeah.
don't even, many of the homes,
Yeah.
privileged classes, separate toilet, separate, this thing is a norm. I'm not saying everyone, there cannot be anything 100% same for a country of 135 crore people, but generally, this is my observation when I look around in the privileged classes and upper classes society. So I'm trying to see the world from Manthara's perspective, how it will look like when there are kings, when they are not bad people, they are the epitome of good, but does their good is good enough? It's a question.
And you know, her relationship with Keki, and the way Keki herself turns on her, it's so tragic, isn't it?
It's so tragic because Kaigeyi herself is a tragic figure.
Exactly. again,
So,
again, a character who's not really got her due, isn't it?
she is a tragic figure. So that
Yeah.
is why now Ayodhya had never treated any of its women properly.
Absolutely.
It's not a see, and I would always say this is the honesty of Ramayana also. No, they can
Right.
easily showed Valmiki could have easily showed anything, but
Yeah.
he's holding a mirror, and that is the greatest of all writings. So we are just taking a few tidbits from that and trying to remove the cobwebs of devotion which has come, because these are all much more, just like Mahabharata, Ramayana is a very, very deep tale.
Right.
Because with Ram winning over Ravan, if it was a tale of good winning over evil, the tale would have ended.
Right.
But it goes on, and finally it ends with a single mother, perhaps the literature's
The
oldest
first,
single mother,
the
first
first
single mother.
single mother.
Even though chronologically it is Shakuntala, who might be
Right.
perhaps older than Sita, but tales were written later. And Shakuntala is also the same case. No,
Yeah.
Shakuntala is like a rich, spoiled brat goes, and if Vyasa writes it so beautifully, not Kalidasa Shakuntala. So there is no signet ring in Vyasa's Shakuntala. So I'll
Right.
be coming up with that. That's also a single mother. Sita is also a single mother, which could be more modern than that. Sita
Yeah.
brings up her kids so that they go and defeat the entire Ram's army,
Right.
including Ram in many versions.
Right.
What could be a sweeter revenge? Perhaps. So that these are all the things that makes Ramayana fascinating. In fact, I have written another book which has come in Audible original, where it's a many Ramayanas, many lessons. That also got released recently, 5-6 days back. So that also deals with the various aspects and various folk tales of Ramayana, where we are seeing the life from multiple perspectives,
Right.
where the lines are blurred. What is wrong, what is right, who is wrong, who is right, is just humans and their emotions. The caste, class, everything
Yeah.
comes apart.
And Anand, you know, you said it so rightly that we tend to look at Mahabharata as a more complex tale with many more characters. But you're also actually, in a way, rescuing Ramayana from this linear perspective that we have of it. You know, oh, it's a tale about Ram and Ravan. There's much more to it. It's much richer.
It is much more richer, if you ask me.
Yeah.
Ramayana is more subtle and layered. Mahabharata is on your face. Mahabharata, because of the sheer volume and the humongous achievement of creating so many characters, it stands out. But if
Right.
you ask, that is why Ramayana in ancient India was considered as a kavya,
Right.
whereas Mahabharata is itihasa.
Right.
It happens so. Now, kavya is poetry. Poetry will have many meanings. No? So it will
Right.
have so many layers to peel. Mahabharata it deals with characters. Ramayana, the same character has so many shades.
Right. Right.
So I am more fascinated with Ramayana than Mahabharata, if you ask me. Even though Mahabharata also I like.
Yeah.
The more I read, the more fascinating I find Ramayana because of the sheer versions of it. There are
Right.
so many different versions across the world. I don't think any other book other than what is religiously imposed in
Hmm.
many religion. Books are religiously imposed that this is the holy book and you have to read it, or if you don't read it, it's a blasphemy and you are out of our religion.
Right.
Ramayana had spread irrespective of religion or caste.
Right.
It had gone across Asia
Right.
and parts of Africa also. That is actually, if you see in the world history, that is 75% of humanity.
Right.
Europe are all latecomers in the history, and all throughout history, it didn't hold, Europe or America didn't hold 20-25% of the population.
Right.
The majority was in Asia, still it is in Asia. Now it is a Eurocentric world, so we tend to celebrate that everything coming from there is great. But if you see, I don't think there is no literature, no story which has influenced a culture like Ramayana.
Right.
Majority of the culture.
Absolutely. All over the world. You see Southeast Asia especially. I mean, what tremendous impact it has had. I want to also talk a little about the lesser, even lesser known characters like Tataka that you mentioned, and talk a little about her, Tataka and Meenakshi, for people who may not know enough.
Tataka comes in usual rendering of Ramayana as just one, especially the TV rendering. She comes as a howling witch, kind of
Yeah.
a Rakshasi. She comes to eat, and Rama hesitates how we can kill a woman.
Right.
And then the Guru says, Vijayamitra says, don't think about that. Just your duty is to kill
Right.
the evil, and you kill the evil. So first she is branded as evil and she's killed.
Right.
But in folk versions, in many other South Indian versions and other things, even in recent 50 years back, also there were poetries written about her that she is not exactly a Rakshasi. She has a Gandharva lineage.
Hmm.
She has other lineage also, and they are all meant to protect the forest. Now see it from the perspective of a forest dweller.
Right.
Few of rishis who are doing sacrifice, and if you go to many of the authentic versions of this thing, the sacrifice you had a lot of animal sacrifices. So it's clearly said which all animals could be sacrificed and all. Later day, in the last 100 years, we tried to whitewash everything. But actually, these are even Vajapaya and Ashwamedha, the word itself, all those things are about animal sacrifice. We cannot sit in 21st century and judge people. These are all the tribal societies of that era. So it's a clash of cultures. Tataka represents perhaps the forest dwellers who are so close to nature. The Yaksha lineage is there. So Yakshas are considered to be tree spirits, or tree spirit means what? They are the protectors of forest.
Right.
It is not that they will eat only vegetarian vegetables or anything, but they are like live in harmony, just like our tribals. Perhaps our tribals would have lived before the contact with the other civilizations.
Right.
Suddenly, this new civilization is coming, rishis are coming, and they are doing sacrifices for a forest dweller or even for an animal. Unwanted killing is something not palatable. You cannot digest that fact that somebody is killing just for the sake of it, because no animal in the environment does that. Now, they cannot understand how a god can be pleased by sacrificing things. So that is why these Rakshasas, it also comes from the word, the one who protects.
Yeah, Rakshak, exactly.
Rakshak.
Yeah.
They go and try to stop these sacrifices. They are not attacking the cities or killing people or anything like that. The one who attacks the city is Indra or the Purandara, the one who decimates the cities and all.
Right.
See the etymology of the word. Rakshasas are the one who protect. The gods are the one who goes and destroy the city.
Exactly.
It's just you stop and pause to think, what is this? Why are they trying to stop the sacrifices? And the sacrifices are done to please the gods. So whose
Yeah,
gods? Your
right,
gods, our gods are not getting pleased with that.
right,
So we are trying to sacrifice, stop the sacrifice, and you are coming and killing us, saying
yeah,
that branding us as evil and
right,
killing us. We are trying to protect and we are the evil. So this same question comes in the Mahabharata also, when the Gandiva Prastha is burned to make Indra Prastha,
right.
where anything that flies, anything that runs, anything that crawls is being
Mm,
shot by Arjun, and
mm,
fire is used to burn down the forest, and so
mm.
many Nagas and other people are killed so that a city can be built, which is later gambled away by the son of Dharma.
Right. Exactly. Look at the irony of that, you know.
These are
The
the
son of
ironies.
Dharma gambles away the
Son
king.
of Dharma gambles, son of Indra burns the forest, and who is evil? The poor people who are living there.
Right,
Why? Because the big business wants to have the cities there.
right.
Isn't it
It's
something which
so,
is happening now
it's
here?
exactly, it's happening here and now. It's so amazing, you know.
So that is why these tales are so relevant, whether it
Yeah,
is how the women of the society are treated, how the servants are treated as in Mantara, or how the outsiders like tribals are treated in Tataka, or even a princess who, because the values are changing in her society,
yeah,
that she is given the choice of marrying whoever she please. That should be in modern society, that should be the ideal choice.
yeah,
You fall in love, you marry, you ask. What is wrong in Surpanaga going and asking the
yeah,
man who she finds attractive?
yeah, exactly.
You so the gods who can kill Ravan, who are so powerful that they are the avatar and they can kill Ravan. The question that Surpanaga asks is, they could have, if they don't like it, okay, I became angry, I tried to attack them, which is wrong. You
Hmm,
are the king. What are you supposed to do? You tie me up. I'm
hmm,
just a woman. You
hmm,
say you are powerful. No, any
hmm.
man is powerful is your idea than any
Yeah,
woman. Over and above, you are the god. You are the avatar. You are the Adishesha, the brother of God, or the Vahana of God. And what is that you do? You chop my
nose.
nose. You chop my breast.
Yeah,
You mutilate me. And why? Because I just asked whether I'm in love with you. I told you that I want to marry you. You can say no. I will understand the meaning of no.
yeah. Unlike you.
Unlike you.
Yeah,
So this becomes. So these are the layers which comes again and again, like what Bali asks in Vanara, Bali asks in Ramayana, in fact, which I just echoed in my Vanara, that you say I'm an animal,
mhm,
then for animal whoever is strong, the mate belongs to him. So
yeah,
how is it wrong that if I marry, if I take my wife's, if I take my brother's wife, in fact, she was my wife, my
right,
brother took it
exactly.
after trafficking. I didn't blame him because that is how it is here. When I came back, he can fight me and take my wife back, or
Right,
she can go. She can choose. Either of this is not happening. So
right.
I had her. You hide behind a tree and kill me,
Yeah,
and you are imposing your dharma on me, saying that it is unfair that I had taken my
brother.
brother's wife. He took my wife. He did it unfair. We are siding with him. Okay, I agree. It is unfair. Then you are applying human rules to me. Then if you apply human rules, then you cannot hide behind a tree. You should fight with me directly. If you
Right.
are applying a human rule, right? Because if you are considering me a warrior, you can't have both. You
Yeah,
consider me like a human warrior, you fight with me like a human warrior and
right,
win against me.
right.
If you consider me an animal, then you eat me.
Yeah,
Because animals aren't for eating. You eat me. You are not eating. So what dharma you are propagating?
right,
So these questions echo over the centuries. Because the definition of dharma is what definition of what is right is what the powerful defines. It
right,
becomes that.
right. So amazing. Anand, what makes you think of things from such a different perspective? What is in your training, or what is in the way you've taught yourself to read, that you are able to see things from such a different perspective?
I think it is the tradition.
Okay.
Tradition in the sense, Indian tradition is always about, see, Indian tradition is a very all-encompassing word because India doesn't have one tradition.
One tradition, yeah.
India has multiple tradition which changes over centuries and over geography. But still, if you go to the classical Indian tradition, I'm not saying was all perfect, but the greatest aspect of it, there is nothing which is perfect or perfectly wrong, all right? But one aspect of it is always question. Always question. So the entire Indian thought process, all the myriad varieties of it is in a questioning format. Upanishad is in questioning format. All the epics are in questioning format.
And don't judge also.
Don't judge also. So you go to Ramayana and Mahabharata deeper, you take it away from the propagandist and try to go into the mind of the great writers. You find that they are not shied away from question.
Right.
This is who has asked this question. It's not Bali who is asking the question. No, it is Valmiki who is asking the question to Ram.
Right.
And he raises that question, and who answers it? Vyasa answers it. Right. So we don't want any other authority for that. Vyasa answers it by saying that the Bali comes back as Jara and kills Krishna the same way, completing the circle, saying that not even the god escapes his karma.
Right.
So this is, but is that right? Is the next question you have to ask. And then you have to find answers by writing for that. And from questions, answers will come, and from that answer, another question will come. So that is why it makes it so interesting. So there are no commandments like this is what I write and you obey it or lose your head. That commandment was never a part of our culture. Now, if it is becoming like that, it is a pure imitation with none of the positives of such culture and all the negatives of our own culture. If it is something evolving into something which is neither here nor there, that is our misfortune.
And you know, when you speak of Ayodhya treating its women so badly, I was thinking, what has changed in the modern Ayodhya? You still have the same love jihads and anti-Romeo squads.
Nothing has changed across India. Actually, it has become worse. At least at that time, there were women could question.
Yeah.
There were many women, including Ahalya, who questioned the society, and there were poets who could write.
Right.
Including even in a tale of Ramayana, all the flaws of Ram has been put forth.
Right.
By Valmiki.
Exactly.
And all his why? Because the explanation is also given by Valmiki. No, it is not God. It is a God in human form.
Right.
So he will have all the flaws of human.
Right.
It is not, and it is a kind of. That's why I tried to explain in the many Ramayanas. Even a good action.
Yeah.
Will have some bad actions. Some folk tales deal it more beautifully, like Jadayu is cremated by Ram. Now the entire folk rendition questions this. Is a cremation right thing? Jadayu is a bird. Why is Ram coming and applying his dharma in Jadayu's cremation? Because Jadayu has to be eaten by many other small creatures. You are denying the food.
Right. Right.
You are doing wrong. Why are you interfering in the nature? Why are you burning him?
Right.
And rendering the food useless.
Right.
Then how the folk tellers answer it? Not in Valmiki Ramayana. Folk Ramayans, the Ram says that yes, I have done a mistake, but I had to do it because I have taken this form, so I have to do that duty. I understand that whatever I do, there is a mistake.
Right.
So I will provide you food in the next Janma. Then some of them say, but we steal. We are like foxes. We steal food. Right. Can you steal with us? Right. So that Krishna comes, Ram becomes Krishna in the next avatar.
Right.
It's just it's very poetic, and he steals butter and gives to all these small creatures, come as his friends, as Gopa Kumaras. He steals and give it to them. This is the folk poets deal with it. So they're trying to make sense of a very complicated world. So I'm trying to bring back all this tradition in my own small way, however it is possible. Whether telling through the servant's perspective or through Rakshasas or Asura perspective or women's perspective, women like discarded women like Shurpanaka or a discarded woman like Shanta who gets accepted, Shurpanaka discarded and gets rejected, all forms of human life. Mantra never gets accepted ever in her life.
Right.
It's a whole comedy through the human tragedy.
Yeah.
This is what life is.
It must be taking so much deep study, Anand, to come up with all these ideas. So do you, how many of the Ramayans have you read? How many versions are there?
I have then read. Not even 10% of Indian things have been written down even now.
Right.
There is so much there across India in this culture in various languages. It's unfortunate that many of the languages are dying down.
Right.
Even what Tulsidas ji wrote, the same language is slowly giving way to the government Hindi, isn't it?
Yeah.
Government sponsored Hindi.
Right.
So many languages, even it's not just about Hindi. Now states are arranged in linguistic basis.
Right.
So say take the example of Malayalam or Kannada or Tamil, who always say Hindi is getting imposed and our language has to be protected, which is right. But again, there are many hundreds of tribal languages in all these places. All those languages are getting standardized to the very classical Malayalam or Tamil or Kannada. All other languages, for example, Tulu is one of the oldest language. And Tulu doesn't have the same kind of importance as Kannada in Karnataka or in Kerala. Tulu is spoken both in Kerala and Karnataka, northern Kerala and southern Karnataka. Tulu is such a rich language with such a big folk culture, including Yakshagana. Now Yakshaganas themselves are coming in Kannada or Malayalam. And Tulu, even though a lot of people are trying to save it, but without an official recognition, even in a linguistic state, it gets muffled.
Right.
So when we write the stories, it is not just the stories of downtrodden. Even in languages, there will be downtrodden languages, and there are Tulu. Fortunately, has people, rich people, many rich people, influential people, educated people who have the capability to protect the language. There are languages in the Middle India or in Odisha where it is spoken only by tribals. I can't understand most of it, but when you hear Ram or these kind of words, you know what is, with some translators I have tried to bring, there are so many multiple variations of, and all these traditions we are losing. Northeast, Odisha, Bengal, there are so many languages, Madhya Pradesh, in the Hindi heartland, so many languages which are dying down, which is very sad. We have technology now, we have so many things now, we should be, orally it's possible to preserve now.
Yeah, yeah. I think Audible should help.
I don't know whether commercial organizations can help or they will have to do it as a part of their CSR.
Right. Yeah. Thank you so much, Anand Neelakantan, for a wonderful book. It was such a pleasure to read it, and I recommend it to all men and women. I think we ourselves don't know so much of our history and our past. Thank you for continually reviving it for us and bringing it forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Bye.